Well, I am so excited about this conversation. I literally am trying to hold my emotions in check because it is always a pleasure spending time with you. You're so
Oh,
wise and you are so real. And we are in need of both in this moment and in this season. And I'm excited about the topic. I am Dr. Joynicole Martinez. I am President and Chief Advancement and Innovation Officer at Rising Tide Capital. And I am honored to be in this conversation with our board chairwoman and my friend, Aicha Balla.
well, thank you, Dr. Joy Nicole, for such a warm welcome. I'm excited to be with you. I admire all of the work that you've been doing with Rising Tide since the time we found you and became great friends. And thank you for inviting me to this wonderful conversation this evening.
It will be fun. This will be fun. It will be transparent,
Yes.
right? Wise words. This is our chat. We're going to talk about some of the things that just impact leaders and impact women leaders. I think it's an important moment. We celebrate the month, but we're in work and we're in session and we're in leadership all the time in all of our spaces. There's never a time that we get to say, I can take off my, my role, or I can put that hat off today, a minute, an hour, maybe a half a day if you're doing your Netflix and your chill. But we are who we are, and we need to be well to move and breathe and be in all those spaces
Yes. And we wear so many hats all the time.
all the time. The ball cap, the top hat, the beret, you know, the felt,
Yes.
all the hats. So let's talk about what it feels like to be well. I read recently that 2022, the Global Wellness Institute reported that the economy for wellness was at $5.6 trillion with a T. People are spending trillions of dollars just trying to take care of their beauty, their nutrition, their weight, their health, like $5,000 and more per individual, right? That's in the United States alone. So it's one of those things where we're thinking with all of that spending, over $600 billion collectively, why are we not seeing for women us feeling healthier? Why are our communities not producing more well people? We're spending the dollars, we're making the investment. Why do you feel like we're not getting the return? What could be happening?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there are definitely a couple of themes that I've noticed, me personally, and just in society. Number one is the lack of consistency, and I think the lack of consistency is what really drives the wellness. People start something, and unfortunately, they don't stick with it, or they don't stick with the schedule. Life gets in the way. I mean, it's the honest truth, right? A lot of us have families to tend to, whether it's children, husbands, significant others. We're taking care of potentially some elderly parents or others. So life gets in the way of maintaining that level of consistency. People mean well when they start their journey on wellness, whether it has to do with beauty, eating well, going to the gym, exercising, or just being mindful, taking moments of break, meditation. But life tends to get in the way, and those other duties take precedence over the self care. And for women, historically, especially for Black women, we have the world on our shoulders. So we have even more responsibility than a lot of the majority others that we see, our counterparts. And we take everything on. We have a hard time saying no sometimes. And I think that's also, a major issue. So it's the lack of time, also flexible schedules. We're juggling not only careers, but family and other obligations that kind of come into the mix that make it hard for us to take a step back and really take care of ourselves. The other thing is accountability. At times, we don't have people around us that hold us accountable to maintaining a wellness regime, whether it's a coach, a support system, friends, family. And I think that that's a major point of contention where you must have accountability when you start off on this journey, someone that holds you accountable to making sure that you're reaching those wellness goals, and people that are willing to see you through, right? The other thing is, oftentimes I fall into this category, is I'm wanting to see results right away, right? Um, so when you're on a wellness regime, whether you're trying to lose weight or you're dieting or what have you, like you expect immediate results, and those results really don't come that easy. So that's also the issue, is making sure that in your mind, you know that this is a long journey. It's a lifelong journey, and therefore you can't rush the process. And looking for immediate results while dieting or taking care of your mental health or what have you is not necessarily realistic. And I
Mhm.
think that's one of the issues. And now a lot of people are turning to medications like Ozempic and Wegovy and all the other generic brands that are out there, because they see that. And although it is a healthy way to lose weight for some people, some are using those methods for the quick get fixed um, outcome, without knowing the potential consequences of those kinds of medication. And folks feel disheartened, not supported by the community, in trying to achieve these lifelong journey, because getting to a place of wellness is not something that you can do for 3 4 months. It has to become something that becomes a lifestyle change. And also the thing is, people follow trends, right? One minute it's this diet fad, one minute it's another diet fad, or some other wellness regime, and people just jump on the bandwagon of what they think is cool, fresh, new at the time, without taking the step back to realize, is this right for you or for them? So those are the reasons why I think, we're not really seeing the return on the investment, because when you think of the number $5.6 trillion worldwide, that's astronomical. And 630 billion just in the United States, that's a very large number, not to see what I call a return on that investment. But if we address some of these things, the lack of consistency, making sure that you do carve out the time, having people that hold you accountable, the willingness to see something through, and not also jumping on the bandwagon of these new trends, we may see some improvement in the outcome of this investment that people are making.
So you are hitting all the nails on the head. I too will say it is the consistency and the accountability. In medicine, we want our patients to do exactly what we say, right? Exactly when we say it. And one of the reasons why it's difficult to see change in that industry is because the person has to have their own personal commitment to,
Mhm.
we can diagnose, we can say this is what's wrong, we can say here's how you fix it. You have to want to fix it, and you have to want that methodology or that prescription to fix it.
Yeah.
And when that takes a long time, or you feel like I'm putting in all this effort and this work and I don't see anything, like anything in our lives, right? I want to see progress. And one of the
Mhm.
things around wellness is, no matter what type we're talking about, progress is difficult to measure and it's hard to see
Mhm.
for oneself, right?
Yes.
People will say, "Oh, you look so great," or "Oh, you sound better. You seem rested." And it's like, I can't see that for myself.
Mhm.
And then we're not taught to take that information in from others and hold it and then embrace it as a compliment. So it's a challenge, right? It's a challenge. I can't give myself the move in and I can't pull from others the lift up. So I do need that board, right? That board of directors that sits in front of me, that intimate circle that's like, no, you're doing it, you got it, and keep going. Yes, you're
Yeah.
doing well, and keep going. You're making it, and keep going. And I saw you fall off that wagon. You said you were going to be mindful for 10 minutes, and did you do it? Right? And I'm
Mhm.
grateful for Rising Tide because we are committed to those kind of things, right? So starting a meeting and saying, before we start, do you need a minute? Right? Let's start and let's take just 2 minutes to check in. We're
Mhm.
committed to that. And it makes being at work a reminder that I can be well at home and at work.
Yes. And I think also we don't celebrate the wins enough, right? Like you mentioned your point about, someone says you look great, you look well rested, you've got your mind right. And we don't celebrate those wins. And we should celebrate the wins, whether they're small or large. That's what keeps one engaged and motivated. And yes, I think we tend to be very humble, and not, appreciate the praise or appreciate the compliments, but take them and run with it and use that as a piece of encouragement and motivation to keep pushing forward to your end goal, which is really embracing wellness as a life journey. And I think that's the goal of everyone, right? Is people want to start a wellness program, but like I mentioned before, it's not something that you do for 2 to 3 months. It's something that you incorporate in a lifestyle change. That's when you really truly see results.
That's when you see results. I
Hmm.
mean, we're both in leadership positions, right? We see women making strides. We see it. I will say not enough, not as frequently as I would like, but we see women rising. And I still hear the struggle, right? The struggle of I'm working at work. I'm holding this, I'm wearing the hat, and I'm still struggling to take care of me.
Yeah.
Right? I'm taking
It's
care of all the things. I'm not taking care of me. And I'll be very honest. I'm always the last person on my list, right? I'm like, mom first. Okay, everybody has to have food. Does everyone even have on shoes today? Like, there's the list, and then
yeah.
somewhere in that list, there's the me. Somewhere,
Yes, because yeah, 100%. We're always so busy taking care of everyone else that we actually don't have the space to take care of ourselves, because by the time we get to ourselves, we have just no energy.
it,
Um and that's the thing, like we're juggling so many balls, and one can only juggle so many balls before one falls and cracks. And that tends to be the ball that's representative of you,
yeah,
because we put ourselves last a lot of times. And I know that this sounds cliche, and I've heard it about 1,000 times, and I still struggle with this. Is you can't help anyone else unless you help yourself. And it's hard to understand and believe that with all the responsibilities that are in front of us. But if we took a step back and really looked at that quote and took it in, and it is true, because when a mom is sick, or a woman leader is sick, things start to fall apart, you know? And so the healthier we are, the better we're able to do all the tasks that we have in front of us and complete them probably better, to be
that's
honest,
right.
and in a much happier state of mind as well.
So what do you do? Tell me how you confront when you start to realize, oh no, I've left me out of the picture. Is there a ritual? Is how do you get back to no, 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 Aicha, get yourself together.
Yeah, I start to set boundaries. I start to tell people, like, and start to delegate, especially when it comes to work. I will say at work, they lean on me for a lot of different things, a lot of different projects outside of my immediate day job. So I always say to my manager, it's a joke that I have with him, I'm missing a paycheck for all the other extra things that I tend to do around my day job. What I end up doing now, and I still struggle with this, is trying to take a step back, assessing what is a priority, and then delegating things off my plate that I don't need to have full oversight or responsibility over. And that is a struggle for someone like me, where I tend to be a little bit of a control freak, because I
Mm,
want to know, like, is the project moving along? Are we hitting all of our goals towards the project? And sometimes you have to just let other people take over and
yes.
also trust that your colleagues want to do good work and
Mhm.
want to be successful as well. So there's a trust that needs to be instilled, but truthfully, for me, it's just taking a step back, reflecting, and taking the time I need. I'm a big proponent of take the vacation. You can't take it with you. If you leave the company, some companies don't pay you for the vacation that you haven't used. And honestly, the difference in pay between you and your coworker that uses every single vacation and you use none, it at the end of the day, it really doesn't make that much of a difference, right? Especially if you're not healthy and you're not in a right frame of mind. So I take my vacations, definitely 100%. And if I need a day here and there, I'll take it and just kind of put my work to the side. I won't look at my work email. I won't look at my work text. It's a me day.
Mhm.
And things are not that urgent that things can get done either the following day or another colleague can potentially pick it up.
You made such a valid point. It's the trust, right?
Mhm.
Leaders, when we have fought and clawed and worked our way to the top, having that trust that I can walk away and this will continue and it will continue at the same level of excellence, right? Because there is that sense of, because this is my layer, because
Mhm.
I'm represented in the world this way, I'm obligated to, when I'm in a winning state, my winning can't be normal. My winning has to be extraordinary. Um,
Mhm.
one of our partners leads an organization and it's killing Superwoman. And I think about that often, like, is that what we've told ourselves we must be? We must be Superwoman. And the way we
Yes.
take power back in truth is to say, I don't need to be Superwoman. I need to be woman, right? I need to be exactly who I am. But the
Yes.
obligation to be supernatural or super really comes from a place of privilege and power that's positioned on me and not that's given from me. And I think
Yes.
I'm really working myself to say, what are my expectations? And so when I hear people say things like, I can't take vacation, right? It's why not? What is it
Mhm.
that's happening at home or work or in your emotions right here that makes you feel like you can't trust the work to continue for even a short season so you can let go and then create space for continued creativity so you have energy to come back and do the work at the level you expect of yourself, right? It's a
100%.
cycle.
It really is a cycle. And I think early on, especially minority women, Black women, people of color, we are taught that we always have to be at the top of our game,
Mhm.
right? And that's part of the superwoman syndrome and the imposter syndrome also. But the
That's right.
superwoman syndrome, since you touched on that, I will address that because a lot of times we need to be better than our counterparts. And in order to be better, we have to outwork them, outpace them, and like you said, not take the vacation. So we give the impression, and it's called a hustle culture. And
Mhm.
I fell into the hustle culture early on in my career. And basically, what that means is you need to rise, grind, no day offs. It is a mind frame that you have to prioritize work at no matter the cost to either get that promotion or be made visible in a corporate space or a leadership space. And we have to move away from that
That's
hustle
right.
culture, um, because that's the trap we fall in. And you're right. People say, I can't take vacation. Why? You should be able to. And I remember this is the first time I did it. I started doing it this year. So I still have to check myself on the hustle culture. When I would take vacation, my out of office response would be, I am sorry, I'm on vacation,
Right.
and I will respond to you as soon as I get back. So I'm already apologizing for taking time for myself.
Mhm.
That's crazy, when you think about it.
We do it.
You're
We do
allowed
it.
to take time off. So now this year, I said, I'm not apologizing for taking time for myself or vacation for whatever purpose I need to use my day off. Now my out of office says, I'm out of the office. I will return on X date and I will respond to you at my earliest convenience. That's it. Point blank. If there's an emergency, people will find someone else to assist them
Yes,
in
they
that,
will.
that in that whatever they're trying to resolve or issue. So we should not be apologizing for putting ourselves first, especially in these corporate cultures. Because
Listen,
at the
that's
end of
it.
the day, we
2025.
are just a number.
No more apologies for putting yourself first. There we go. We
No,
release.
we should not.
We
And it took me
release.
a long time
Yes,
to
ma'am.
get here. 25 years of working on Wall Street. It took me to get here, but I am no longer going to be apologizing for putting myself first. I think the pandemic taught us that. And I
Yeah.
really, and there have been so many lessons from the pandemic, as terrible as it was, and all the souls that we've lost and all the families destroyed. But there were some lessons, and I hope one of the lessons that people take is put yourself first.
Yeah.
These companies, these corporations will go on just fine. And so will you if you put yourself first.
Right. They will be well. So you be
Yes,
well.
exactly.
That's right. I man, I just so many amazing quotable moments right there. I'm like, I want to continue, but I want to stay. But I'm thinking about all of our communities of communities. Um, I've been a carer for um elderly parent or grandparent,
Mhm,
sick parent or grandparent.
mhm,
We have people in our community that are really just suffering in silence when it comes to economy, immigration status, their carers for loved ones or elderly or and like you said with the pandemic, we have so many people suffering from long-term effects around the pandemic. I mean,
mhm,
you think about housing, right? The loss of housing or housing instability, so many people who are struggling in their bodies to come to full health and wellness. It's just so important that we think about how we partner, how we collaborate, how we support and uplift. One of our funding partners, Kate Spade Foundation, they work with Rising Tide, as you well know, on our flourishing and
mhm.
resilience. And when I think about flourishing and resilience, when I think about wellness, when I think about the need for us to bring in community, I think about partnerships with Friendship Bench out of Zimbabwe, all the way in
Mhm.
Zimbabwe, right? That came and worked with us to help us understand how to listen in a conversation for words and behaviors that are signals that, hey, I need help.
Yeah.
So I know you work with a lot of people, a lot of diverse spaces, and all your many hats. And I know you also know how we suffer in silence, how we don't raise a hand. And we touched briefly about just having that accountability. But what
Mhm.
does it look like to really have community collaboration? Like, how do
Yeah.
we come to that point?
I think it's a great question, and I'm so happy of the partnership that we have with the Kate Spade Foundation. Clearly, they're super focused on mental wellness, given the situation with their CEO who passed away after she committed suicide. And I'm sure it was very eye opening for that organization that their leader was suffering in silence, and probably there were some signs, but people either didn't see it, didn't perceive it, ignored it, or whatever the case may have been. But I think in order to really establish great community is one is listening, listening to the needs of others, right? Because oftentimes people cry for help, but we're too busy talking and not listening. So truly listen to individuals, and also listen to what they're looking for and asking for, and don't impose things on the individual. I think that's also very important, because people will clue you in onto what they may need and try to bridge that gap,
Mhm.
and understand what the issue, the true cause of the issue, right? Like we spoke about the pandemic, people are worried about their housing. So many people lost their employment. Some people are still fighting the pandemic, long COVID, if you will, in terms of their own health perspective, trying to really get to the root of what the actual issue is. If the person is not able to gain gainful employment, is there a skill set or a skill gap that we can help them fulfill, right? So that they can gain gainful employment in this new world's order, when you're thinking of AI technology that's taking over a lot of hospitality roles, if you will, and roles just in general, within many corporations. Try to understand where we can bridge that gap for that person, and also create safe spaces to share, where people can truly come their full self, not feel judged, not feel as if they're going to be further neglected and abandoned, because there is a lot of sense of abandonment that was created during the pandemic, right? And so creating that safe space so people can come together, collectively share, and build community that way is instrumental and very helpful. And have people lean on one another, right? Your experience may be very similar to another person's experience, but they may not know that you are sharing in the same struggles and trying to achieve those same goals. So lean on each other for best practices and also create a sense of belonging and inclusion. I think that's really, really important for people to feel like they belong and they feel included in the conversation of their own wellness, right? People don't like to be told what to do, they like to be given suggestions. And then also for them to provide the feedback if that might work for them. Not everything is a one size fits all model, right? We're all individuals. And so when we're talking about implementing wellness or strategies to help people gain employment, it's not all a one size fit all model, right? Everyone has unique characteristics that changes the definition of what that one size fits all model truly is. And I think if we can create those safe spaces, we could do a better job on leaning on one another. And I know that, for example, in our last board meeting, Alpha was talking about the immigration crisis that we face in the United States today. And it's so unfortunate that this is happening to people. People have an extreme sense of anxiety, whether they
Yeah,
have their papers or not. People feel as
that's right.
if, they may get scooped up on the street if they look a certain way, or if they have an accent or don't speak English fully. I know that Rising Tide has created a partnership with some of our community members where if they were to be stopped by ICE and their children were at school or elsewhere in the community, that the children will be safeguarded until the solution, there's a rectifying of the paperwork, the solution is provided. So I want people to feel that Rising Tide is a place that they can come to and know that we will always be there to be their safety net when they fall, right? And catch them when they fall and bring them back up.
That is what we do. That's
Yes.
so you touched on psychological safety, and this is so important. We talk about mental health and wellness, and it can seem kind of cliche, but the truth is, our mission is to transform lives and communities through entrepreneurship, right? It
Mhm.
seems such a solidly swift and concise reactionary look. We got to do it. We got to change lives. We got to change communities, and we have the solution. Done. But the truth is, when you talk about transforming lives, you mean that individual and you mean all the lives that touch that individual, right? We're trying to transform all the lives surrounding that person, all the ways they have influence. So we're grouped in so many ways, right? We're grouped by
Mhm.
external layers of identity. We're grouped by the way people identify us. We're grouped by the way we come to work, by our professions, by our titles within our profession. We're grouped so many ways. And when you say psychological safety, one of the things that I find is people don't know how to ask for, achieve, or create psychological safety. So
Mhm.
I want to be included, right? I want to be in the conversation, but I want to be in the conversation and understand the language being spoken, right? I want to belong in the conversation. I don't want to just be included. I want you to include me there, but I also want to feel like I belong. And when we don't know how to shed those groupings, right? We get to the place where we're talking to each other, but we're not speaking in a way that we're seeking to understand, right? We're seeking for them to understand us, but we're not doing the rule or the principle of seek first to understand, then be understood, right? And leadership must do that. It is our responsibility to create safe spaces where psychological safety is present. Is it perfect? No, but it's present. And where we see it's not, I think we have an obligation, if we are serious about wellness, then we have an obligation to practice it, right? To practice. I may not be an expert at it, but I can practice it with me and my influence space, my sphere of influence. And then at work as a leader, and this is where I say, for people who don't understand the required need, the absolute necessity for belonging, right? If you
Mhm.
really want me to be well, if I'm in your sphere of influence, if I'm under your leadership, there's an obligation for you to help me feel safe so that I can get to a place of belonging. And when we're not
Yes,
well as leaders, I can't do that for you because I don't feel like I
that's
belong. Right. So if
that's
I'm
exactly right.
struggling with the imposter syndrome, if I'm struggling with that, how can I create space for other people when I don't even know that I'm supposed to be in the room? Right. Like that's the complexity of
It's a challenge. Yeah,
yes.
it is a very perplex issue of leading, and I think a good leader what a good leader does, and I've seen this over time because I've had some really good managers throughout my career on Wall Street, and I've known some great leaders like yourself and Alpha, through external sources, but they encourage people to be a voice at the table, because often people are invited into the room, but they also don't have a they're invited into the space, but they don't have a voice
Right.
in that space. So good leaders encourage people to bring their thoughts to the forefront, encourage them to bring and challenge the status quo, bring new ideas, and be inspiring in doing so. And I think that's what really makes a great leader, because you want diversity of thought. Diversity comes
Absolutely.
in many, many shapes, right? But diversity of thought, I think, is very important, because not everybody thinks the same way. So encouraging people to be also a voice at the table is going to bring us one step closer to achieving that well-being, the sense of belonging, the sense of inclusion. But we have to encourage folks to speak up, and
Yeah.
that their voice matters, and that's what's
Yeah.
very important. Is not a lot of people feel as if what they bring to the table, they matter, and maybe they feel that way because of the way that they look, the way they speak, the way they dress, their educational background, but they matter. It doesn't matter where you went to school or if you didn't go to school.
That's right.
Just show up, because everyone has a different process of thinking, right? And come from different backgrounds and have had different life experiences. And each life experience has shaped the person to who they are today. And I think it's very important that we recognize that as leaders and encourage people, don't change yourself, be yourself,
Yes.
because that is what is going to have people rally around you. I fell into the trap when I first started on Wall Street. I mean, the whole concept of, whitewashing the way you talk, right? I was doing that, and finally my manager was like, excuse me, why are you talking like that? And I kind of was taken a little bit aback, like, okay, why is this white man telling me this? Is he supposed
Oh,
to, am I supposed to sound any way different than how I'm sounding? He's like, well, when I hear you on the phone, you're much more relaxed. But when you're in meeting, like your whole entire tone, your language, your body language is completely different. We hired you for the Aicha Balla, not for who this person that you
right.
think we want. And once I heard that, it clicked. I said, wow, I really should just be myself. And I think that's why I've lasted 25 years, because he told me that very early in my career, and he's been retired for a long time and he's still a mentor of mine. I speak to him every 2 weeks. I still talk to him about, some of my struggles at work, et cetera, career development plans, et cetera. And that was probably the best advice. In the moment, I was kind of angry. I ain't gonna lie. But, when I sat on it, I was like, you know what? He's right. And I
Yeah.
think that's why I've been at, the companies I've been at for as long as I have been, because I've been myself. And I've
Yes.
also had the opportunity to work with leaders who have valued my opinion, valued my voice, and encouraged me to not just be at the table, but play a significant role at the table.
That's right.
And that's by
That
speaking up.
there's one
And
thing
when
I
you become a leader, you have to
take.
encourage. those behind you, right? Like
Yes.
rising tide, it's about lifting the tide, lifting all boats. People that are coming up behind you that are junior, or may not have the confidence or the skill set or the knowledge, right? That's more seasoned people have, bring them forward, be their mentor, be their
Hmm.
sponsor.
That's right.
And I think that's very important, is to have mentors and sponsors. And the relationship is different between mentors and sponsors. And I'll talk about that in a
Amen.
minute. But a mentor really encourages you to deep dive into your career. They may not have influence in your career,
Hmm.
but they will help guide you. A sponsor is like a mentor, but has an elevated voice at the table.
Hmm.
They can guide and help navigate your career in a way that influences and shapes it, because they're the ones that can make decisions that benefit your career by
That's right.
either giving you stretch opportunities at work, introducing you to a network of people that you may have not been in contact with, that will elevate your performance and your knowledge and your career in general. So I think it's important that when we succeed, that we bring other people along with us,
Hmm.
right? Historically, there's always been a concept of there's only one of us in the room, meaning Black people, right? They only hire one Black person,
Right.
right? That was historically that. And we would not help each other in the corporate space. I've seen it where
Hmm.
people would be unwilling to help people that look like them because of the concept of there's only one in the room. And if there's only one in the room, that one is going to be me. So if I help you, then you might climb over me. We have to
That's
get that
right.
out of our mind, right? We have to help each other navigate this space, which is already difficult for people that look like us.
That's right.
We have a responsibility to help the future generations get here. We owe that to our ancestors who
That's
have
right. Get
fought for
here
the
and
right for us
ask.
to even be in a room,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
Um, and so when I see people with the attitude of there can only be one, I think of, bruh, sis, well, you're not going to be the one with that kind of an attitude, right?
That's
Because you
right.
have to lift everybody together. You cannot work on an island on your own. You're not a silo, right? So encourage people to lift others, motivate people, be that voice that maybe they don't have the courage in that moment, but give them the space to do so.
You said the magic word. Your mentor said, take off that mask, right? Because we
Yes,
do.
the
We
imposter syndrome. Yes.
we mask because it's easier to mask than to have to deal with the pain of, the fear and pain around being assessed for an identity I can't change, right? So I'll
Mm-hmm.
mask
Mm-hmm.
it and I'll cloak
Mm-hmm.
it. I'll try to push it back into those layers that don't necessarily stand out so I don't create an
Yes.
identity around myself. That was one of the
Correct.
things I had to learn really early on. I remember being in a class and being told to put on a surgical cap, and I was like, Black girl magic, my hair can transform. But in the moment, I'm like, this natural hair is not getting in this little piece of paper plastic. Like it's this little cap is not, no matter what we do here, this, right? And I'm out here with all the curls, it wasn't gonna fit in the cap. And the shame I felt in the moment of my hair was not professional.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was why I didn't belong, right? I felt ashamed in the moment that I couldn't quickly mask and fit in, and that now
Yeah.
everyone was waiting for me, right, to do something that I couldn't possibly achieve because it just wasn't a part of my identity. Wasn't anything I could
Right.
control, right? I don't
Right.
control how my hair follicles are shaped and how it grows out of my head. But the feeling, the pain, the shame, the how, and then how do I say to this space where there's no one that looks like me, I can't put this on my head, right? And
Mm-hmm.
what am I risking if I say that? Because now I can't participate, right? And I'm
Right.
here. And so what am I giving up if I what do I do? And I remember like running cold water and grabbing rubber bands and trying to force all my glory in this cap. And because
Yep.
what else? I didn't feel there was no sponsor. There was no way to say, I can't in the moment. And there was no preparation for me being there, as if I
Right.
didn't belong. right?
Right, which
No
is
one
so
has
sad because it's like,
yes,
yeah,
that
it's sad, like, you had to change your appearance to conform to what you think that, had you not worn the cap or whatnot, or had you gone to somebody say, "This cap cannot fit my hair," you know, the embarrassment of what they may have told you, because they may have said something like, "Well, why don't you just straighten it out?"
yes,
Or,
that's right.
right? You're gonna have to cut it, or you're gonna have to do
That's
something,
right.
right? Put a relaxer in it. And that's not the answer. The answer is, let's provide a reasonable accommodation that still makes you feel like you're included in these ceremonies.
That's simple things, right? Simple
Mhm,
things that we can prepare. When we talk about wanting to create space, when we talk about it, you mentioned that there can be only one, and I remember, one of my articles I wrote a few years back was on the queen bee, and the idea as a
mhm,
woman in leadership, I'm here, and I'll keep it like I'm the queen, and there's only one, and I will tear
right.
this hive up before I lose my spot. Right?
Yeah,
But what
yeah,
happens in that case is then when you die, there's no succession, right? You
that's
you
right.
don't raise anybody, you don't create space for
Mhm,
anybody, you don't bring anybody. And then you find
mhm,
yourself on this lonely space at the top where you look
mhm.
around and you are the one, and it's not just
Yep,
lonely. Now you feel disconnected and they all feel abandoned. But then you're with
exactly, and that's the thing, they feel abandoned, and they're
whereas
not willing to help you live through your
that's right.
issues, right? Right,
And
and
then
so
when you're
then
looking for support, they're like, "No, girl, you do you."
no, exactly. So
Yep.
then you can't delegate. So now it
Right.
becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that you have to tackle all the
That's
challenges
right.
on your own, because there you ask someone that you did not elevate to now help you in your moment of crisis.
Right.
It's going to be tough, right?
It's tough.
It's kind of like an OJ Simpson, right? I hate to bring the analogy, but it kind of is. I mean, if people know the story of
Uh-huh.
how he was, with the black community until he really needed the black community,
Uh-huh.
and the black community stood by his side. But he had abandoned the black community long before the whole trials, right? But who did he come back to when he got in trouble with the law, right? And so you don't want to be that OJ Simpson, being on an island on your own and having
Mhm.
to now grovel because not
That's
everyone's going to support you or be willing to help. And
we
so
don't
that's why I
rise on our
said,
own.
yeah, and right, and also if you look at good leaders and really good leaders, that speak on TED Talks and the likes, they always say that they didn't get there on their own.
That's
They
right.
always have a slew of people that they thank for getting them to where they are today. Because truth be told, no one can do it all, right? So
Mhm.
leaders tend to surround themselves with strong people that will
Right.
help lift them and make them look good,
Mhm.
and help them get the job done. And in turn, those people that have surrounded that leader also get lifted when there are
That's right.
opportunities. That leader will not forget the person that helped them get to that CEO position or whatever position that they're looking to achieve, right? Um, and if you become the king of the castle or the queen of the castle or what have you, those that helped you get there are going to be those that are you should also reward, recommend, include in higher level conversations. And don't forget those people. That's the other thing. Good leaders do not forget those other people. Once they're in the glass house, and I call it, hanging out with the white shirts. Um, and that's important too, not to forget people that
Yes.
have helped you along the way. And that's why
This
still
is
to this
why you
day,
sponsor.
yeah, I keep in touch with my mentor. He has been retired for 15 years, and
Wow.
I still have a great connection and a great fondness for him because he helped me get to where I am today. And unfortunately, there's still not a lot of Black women on Wall Street in positions of leadership. But I'm helping to change that. There are a wave of people behind me, and I'm like, when it's your time, I'm going to make you shine. And that's really what I think makes a good leader is they also help people shine and they share the spotlight,
Yes.
which is
It is
important.
you are an extraordinary sponsor. I am uh, a woman who has benefited from that light being shown. and
Thank you.
grateful, definitely
Thank you.
grateful. And I think it shows up in Rising Tide in many ways. And one of the ways is people come back, right? Yourself included. Like people, they join community and they stay connected to the community,
Yeah,
right? And you go to
absolutely.
an event and it's like I can, oh look, it's Rising Tide. Oh, we showed up, right? We showed up. We show up and we show out on behalf of one another. We sponsor one
Mhm.
another. We say, yes, not just let me bring you into Community Business Academy, let me bring you, these people can help you, let me bring you, but they come back and they're coaching and they're instructors and they're on help desk, right? We're building a community of people who aren't afraid to sponsor because they know that someone sponsored, because they know someone coached and mentored, and they, with gratitude, can give that back because they've shed that it has to be just me. And they've
Right.
embraced
100%.
it is absolutely us. It is
And it's a
us.
community. It really is truly a community. And I've been with Rising Tide in different capacities since 2015, and I'm so excited that I'm celebrating 10 years of um, partnership with Rising Tide. As I started as a volunteer in the CBA class, playing a little Shady J games, which was really fun. And then, over time, expressed an interest to take a deeper dive into some of the strategic work that Rising Tide was doing. So I became a leader on the strategic advisory board, which led me to my position today as board chairperson. And I have to say, it's a true honor not only to be the first female board chairperson for Rising Tide, but also the first Black person that is the board chair. And truly, it has been a labor of love working with this organization, working with you. And there's so many people that make Rising Tide successful. It's hard to thank everybody, but I hope that everyone feels seen, heard, valued, because it is the reason why people keep coming back to Rising Tide is because of the community that you all have created. And not everybody sees the work that goes behind the scenes, but it's a tremendous lift. And it's valued and it is important work. And I hope that this legacy of Rising Tide Capital continues for so many, so many, so many blessed years because the
Oh,
work is so phenomenal. And we see the results in our entrepreneurs, in those that are building businesses, those that are creating jobs, those that are creating economic empowerment for themselves. They're shaping their communities in ways that they may not even know when they start the journey. And they come back because they're so grateful and they feel so blessed to have had people stand shoulder to shoulder with them along this journey because the entrepreneurial journey can be very lonely, right? And
mhm.
it doesn't have to be. And I think Rising Tide does a really great job at ensuring that our entrepreneurs don't feel alone because it is tough being an entrepreneur. I admire entrepreneurs, the amount of courage, the amount of resiliency that an entrepreneur has to see their vision through is absolutely amazing. And there was a statistic that I read a few months ago. And the reason why I'm saying all this is because an actual business or a business idea from an entrepreneur or a small business will fail at least 3 times before it's successful.
Mhm.
And for most people, when they fail once, they're like, I'm trying that again. It was not
I'm good.
good. I'm going to do something different. I'm another path. This was a pipe dream. But most of the entrepreneurs, they stay steadfast. And that takes a tremendous amount of courage. They'll
Yes.
fall again, get up, try again, and then become successful and resiliency. So I'm inspired by the entrepreneurial community that Rising Tide has built. They give me my inspiration
Yes.
because of their courage, their resiliency, their sense of partnership, their willingness to work and teach each other, even competing business ideas, or they're helping each other, and we see it in this community that we built. And for that, I'm so grateful. And the world seems dark right now with everything going on politically, geopolitically, locally. But
Yeah.
know that I know that rising tide is fighting the good battle and no one is left behind.
No one.
Yeah,
That is, we are on this greatest migration, right? We.
very much.
It isn't I. It's we and it's us. We are
It's
on this
we.
greatest migration. We are
Hmm.
coming together and saying, no more disconnection. You don't have to sit in the land of abandonment. Here we are.
That's
We're
right.
on this journey. Get in this boat with
Yeah.
us, right? Get in this
Yes.
boat, driven by purpose, driven by passion, driven by your
Hmm.
creativity, driven by these things that give you agency and power and give you want to control your destiny. And we'll journey with you.
Absolutely.
We're going with you.
That's right.
We're together the whole way.
Exactly.
5 years,
For sure.
10
And rising
years,
tide,
10 years later,
100%.
right? 10
That's
years
right.
later,
And
we're still
Rising
together.
Tide does an amazing job at like making sure people are present, keeping your social connections alive. They really help connect that bridge and making sure that you take time out for yourself. Like mindfulness is a big part of what Rising Tide does as well. It's not just teaching you the skill set to be a great business person, but it's also teaching you mindfulness, right? To
Right.
take time to be healthy, having that well being. It's so important that all of those are connected, and Rising Tide does an amazing job at doing that. And they inform us about decisions, and also they show gratitude towards the entrepreneurs for being on this journey and for allowing us to be on the journey with them. And they
I think
encourage people not to be afraid of failure.
that's the thing. When you're in community, you're well, you're getting energy of wellness from others. And it does
Hmm.
abate fear. Listen, I believe intensely there is safety in a multitude of counsel, right? There's safety there.
Yeah.
We surround ourselves with our mentors, our sponsors, our instructor, our Shady Jays, our Sallys, right? Like we're surrounded by this wise counsel, and it gives us capacity to make a decision for our wellness. And that's what community
Hmm.
does, right? It empowers us, it encourages us, it turns something inward, outward, and says, I can make a decision for wellness. I can get that text message that's like, hey, you want to go for that walk? Hey, you
Right.
wanna breathe a little bit? Or like, let's just go get some sun,
Yeah.
just
Or grab a coffee,
simple
or
the
yeah.
simple things that keep us voicing, right? Something that I've learned is that when you voice a thing, it takes its power to control you away. When you let it out in the open, if it sits in the darkness of your mind, it just swirls and it just controls. And the minute you lay it
Hmm.
out into the open, you start to disempower anything that may be a lie or a disease or anything that might be a deception, right? Or lead you to
Hmm.
destruction. Give it light, like you speak it, you share it, you acknowledge it, you confess it, right? You engage those safe spaces with people that you trust. You feel the wellness happening. People say, "Oh, I feel like something lifted off my shoulder,"
Yes. The
right?
burden is a little, the
It,
load is a little lighter.
it's lighter. And that's one of my hardest learned lessons is that this isn't a journey of one,
That's
right?
right.
I may be the person doing this particular work in this particular moment, but it isn't a journey of one. And I say that frequently because I had to learn, and I'm still not great at it, right? I can get into my gotta get my head down and get it done and girl go go and girl, right? And just feel like it's all me and I just gotta right, go, 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 ask, right? Do. And I have to remind myself, wait a minute, we are in community and connection. And when
Mhm,
we start to feel that deception that it's you,
mhm,
and I'm not saying there's not
mhm, mhm.
put your head down and push through. But when the deception that you're alone starts to happen, that's when you start making bad decisions, right? Your
Oh,
decision making
absolutely.
goes to pot because you're just like, well, it's like it's only going to impact or only going to affect or only going to land on me. And
Yeah,
I wish I had learned that when I was younger, right? That if I had learned about the safety of that multitude, if I had learned what it meant to have a front row, if I had learned what it meant to be able to disempower deception by giving it voice, I might have gone some, I might have saved a step or 45, right?
I think I would have been too. I mean, I think, for me, asking for help. It's okay to ask for help. And I think that's where also people struggle is they think that asking for help is a sign of weakness. To me,
Yes.
asking for help is not a sign of weakness. I think it's a sign of strength, right? Because you sit in your truth. You're being vulnerable. You're exposing yourself to potential criticism, potential judgment. So someone that asks for help to me is not a failure. It takes a very courageous person to do that, to get out of their comfort zone and say, you know what, I need help with this task or wellness. I'm struggling with this in my life. And doing that is a sign of strength. So I hope
Yeah.
that people recognize that asking for help does not signify you failed, you're not successful, you're not strong. People that ask for help, sometimes they may be in what they think is their darkest moment, but in that moment, they are showing some of the greatest vulnerability and strength.
Yes. If you had to go back, you know, 10 years, or, we're young. If you had to go back a few years and give yourself some wise and sage advice, what would you say to younger Aisha to
Ooh,
prepare her to stay well and be well today?
I would say don't take your health for granted. That's one. And I know that sounds so simple and so cliche, but that is true. Keep your doctor's appointments. Don't, put stuff on the back
Yes.
burner because you have these obligations to take care of. The other thing I would also do is reframe negative thoughts, right? Reframe my thinking. Be more positive, right? There's a lot of studies around the power of positive thinking, right? You manifest what you put in your mind. And I know, again, it sounds cliche, and probably people are like, oh, I've heard that before. But it's true. When you think something negative is going to happen, it almost does happen because it's manifested itself, right? But if you think today's going to be a great day, I'm going to make these wins. And if you don't hit all your little wins or your big task list and you don't check all the boxes, that's okay. Reward yourself. You did something, you accomplished something, and stay out of the negativity. Blur the negativity out, right? Oh, I can't do this. I can't try this. I'm going to fail at this. Like, put that to the side and try. Other things I would say is be present in the moment. Time
Mm,
escapes us. We think that we have all this time and all this life, and life does really escape you. Things happen, right?
mm,
And maintain your social connections. I think that's so important. As we get to be leaders and we take on all this responsibility, sometimes we forget to maintain social connections, our friends,
mm,
our family. We don't see them as much, we don't engage with them as much. But a job is a job. When you lose that job, the people that are going to surround and uplift you to continue to forge forward are going to be those social connections.
yeah.
And make time for yourself, whatever your interests are. Like for me, I spoke about vacation. I'm never going to miss vacation because I love to travel. So that's one of my interests is traveling, eating different foods, seeing different people, being in different cultures. So taking time for yourself to explore the interests. And it could be just as simple as crochet. And some people like to crochet. Some
Mhm.
people love to read, right? And read lots and lots of books every year. So take time to embrace your interests and be grateful and show
Yeah.
gratitude. I think that's very important. I think in my early years in my career, I mean, I was showing gratitude, but now the gratitude that I show is so much different, right? The way I show gratitude is by lifting others, right?
That's good.
Not only the people that have helped me, but those that are waiting in line behind me. And also not to be afraid of failure. And that's a hard one, right? But as I mentioned before, failure, someone that shows up in the face of failure is someone that has shown extreme resiliency, extreme vulnerability, and courage. And so those are the things that I wish I had put in my mind frame like a long time ago. Um, it's still work in progress.
Oh,
Nothing
yeah.
is perfect. I still have to go back and say, okay, you should check yourself. Remember, don't be afraid of failure. Be present. Take time for yourself. And it's going to be a struggle, to all the time. But if you can make baby steps towards keeping those mantras for
Mhm.
yourself, I think the journey will be less difficult.
That's we started with consistency, right? And accountability.
Consistency. Yes.
And then it's
Right.
the baby steps. It's the if I just do one thing, right? One of the
Mhm.
ways I tend to pull myself out of when I'm in a swirl of overwhelm or I'm approaching burnout is I just do one thing, one step. You said it doesn't matter if you don't hit everything on your to-do list, right? You
Yes.
celebrate that you did one thing. And then you celebrate that you did two. Then you celebrate that you did three.
Uh-huh.
Maybe you need that power nap because, woo, I did three, right? But I did three,
Right.
right? And maybe you
That's
need to
right.
go for a walk around the block because you need to reset your mind because the three was hard, but you did three.
That's right.
You may hit four. And I think
Yes.
when we talk about being well, the wisdom is first, know that you can and you are not alone in it, right? Take the time to think because the thinking, we don't always take them. We're into the doing. Take the time to think that little bit of seeing myself winning it, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Visioning myself doing it, whether that's with your
Mhm.
planner, your stickers, your post-its,
Yes.
your Asana board, your mural board, whatever you use to get to that vision, the thinking just unlocks, right? And then the writing it or the calling it and getting the accountability and saying, you know what, Aisha, I've made a decision in 2025. I'm going on a vacation because, girl, you inspired me. And I'm gonna call you and tell you this,
Mhm.
minutes, right? You inspired me, and I'm gonna do it because I deserve it, and because I'm surrounded by people I can trust, and that's new and novel for me. And so I may need you to help me keep my word to myself.
Right.
The
And I think that's
accountability.
it, is having accountability partners. And you touched it on the nail, right? Seeing yourself through the finish line,
Yeah.
right? Is I think is very important. And I heard a quote today, which is really funny and strange that you were talking about steps, because I had never heard this one before. And this is a quote from Martin Luther Jr. King. He said, "You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step."
Yeah.
And I think that's really poignant to this whole conversation is one goal, one step at a time. Think of something that you can improve in your life and figure out how you can do it by taking one step in that right direction.
One
And
step.
if you do that, I think all the other pieces will fall in line.
May it be. May it be.
Yes.
In an extraordinary conversation. We could go
It really
all
has.
day.
All right,
'Cause
we really
I
can.
love talking to you, and we'll be down many roads. But thank you, Aisha, because your wisdom
You're
is
very
real and
welcome.
it's true. And I hope we have more opportunities to share and engage. It's important. You said it. We're
Yes.
in a tough moment. We're in a tough season. And tough is a light word that I'm using for an
Yes.
extraordinary space that feels very dark and frightening.
Mhm.
Right? And
Yes.
having just a moment to stop and reflect and say, you're not alone. We're with
That's
you
right.
in community.
Mhm.
Stay
Mhm.
connected. Speak on it. Say it.
Yes.
Don't let it hide. Right? Get with your accountability partners and let's remain consistent. And that
Yes.
is our wise words for our community.
Very
Thank
wise words, and I and at the end of the day, when you have a healthy workforce and a happy workforce, it encourages increased productivity. There's a
you.
lot of science behind this, and I think all of the things that we discussed here today are going to be continued challenges for everybody, but one step at a time. Just like Martin Luther King Jr. said, you don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take that first step.
Wise words. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you so very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you very much for this conversation. It's been extremely enlightening, and I look forward to engaging more in the future. Thank you.
Absolutely.